Welcome to hell. The BBC have recruited someone that call themselves a disinformation and social media correspondent. Here's the tweet. Delighted I've been promoted from reporter and I'm now the BBC's first disinformation and social media correspondent. I'll keep investigating real-world consequences of online disinformation, trolling and all that's bad on social media with new podcasts, TV and more coming soon. Notwithstanding the hellish Orwellian flavour of the job title, after a relentless campaign against Brexit, after 2.5 years of one-note pro-lockdown coverage of the pandemic, and after a recent so-called documentary about the virus which featured medics with vested interests, what the hell is disinformation when it's at home? As we saw in the course of the pandemic, all too often, disinformation was simply a label given to anything that challenged the narrative about COVID-19, that asked questions about mask efficacy, lockdown impacts, or vaccine side effects. Anyone who actually dared to look at the data was accused of peddling disinformation when all they were doing in many cases was quoting official government statistics. Now, I've had the jab for what it's worth, but it was apparently disinformation to question vaccine side effects, of which there are sadly plenty. You'll still get cancelled from Twitter for asking why kids who face almost zero threat from the virus should take the jab. Look at the Danish government, who have now banned vaccination for the under-18s. Are the Danish government guilty of disinformation too? Are they anti-vaxxers? Could the BBC possibly cancel an entire country? I'm sure they'd love to try. It was disinformation to call out the economic risk of lockdowns, which turned out to be information, not disinformation. Often all you need for disinformation to become truth is a few months and some honest journalism. That COVID leaked from a lab was a wild conspiracy a year ago. Disinformation, if you like, now a serious line of inquiry. Funny that. Suggesting cheap, low-risk treatments for COVID symptoms, including, wait for it, vitamin D, would have got you sent to the funny farm. Let me help this new BBC employee. This is what disinformation looks like.
You're not going to get COVID if you have these vaccinations.
Amazing. Perhaps this new recruit to the Beeb could censor Joe Biden for that outright lie. He also said just 2 weeks ago that America was not in recession, even though they've had 2 quarters of negative growth, a metric used to define recessions in the Western world for over 50 years. Disinformation, ladies and gentlemen, at the very top. So I suggest the BBC start with the White House and work backwards. So do you see the problem with this new job title? Who decides what is fact and what is fiction when for over 2 years governments, the bureaucracy and indeed the media have been among the worst culprits of disinformation? After all, they characterised the pandemic as the bubonic plague, which it was not. The colossal overreaction to this potentially lethal but largely mild virus has caused far more damage than COVID ever could. And Project Fear in the years running up to Brexit was probably the most sustained campaign of disinformation we've ever seen. How much disinformation is the establishment media spewing out about climate change? I don't know, my mind is open, but you tell me. I've got no doubt that this individual at the Beeb has a huge future in the media and great talents. And reporting the appalling scourge of online trolling, bullying and outright lies is massively important. In that, I wish her well. But my problem is with the job title, Disinformation Correspondent, a potential propaganda tool that you and I are actually paying for through the licence fee. How dare this publicly funded body decide what is truth and what is fiction? Often it's only history that delivers the real truth, and I believe that history will be excoriating about our pandemic response. Yes, there are many nutters out there and disinformation can be dangerous, but it always was. Trust a free press and a public with a brain and common sense to spot it, not a government-sponsored censor. We're not stupid, you know, even though the Beeb clearly think we are.